Hey, everybody. Welcome. It's Thursday and it's time for another exciting Marnie Live. We're going to talk about burnout, but um, in preparing this, I was like, I really need to say what no one else I think is saying about this. I feel like everyone's talking about burnout, everyone's talking about midlife, and it's starting to sound like blah, 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 blah. Boundaries, rest, doing less, saying no, getting support, nervous system. I believe in all of it. But I want to say something right out of the gate um, that is totally on brand for Marnie, which is a little raw, a little like a kick in the ass with my pointy boots, as my clients say, but with love. Um, for a lot of the women that are here, burnout isn't the actual problem. It's the symptom. Um, and most people are working on the symptom. And if you're working on the symptom, then you end up having the same conversation with yourself, like a year from now, years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. Um, and what I mean by this is like, yes, you can close your laptop at 5. You can go on a vacation. You can set a boundary. You can reorganize your planner. You can set up skills in your Claude Cowork. You can delete some things off your calendar. They're all really, really important. And also, what happens is we still feel tired, not just physically tired, but like soul tired. Like something just feels off, decision tired. And what I'll say is, I will label it as identity tired. Um, the kind of tired that making one small baby change doesn't fully fix. It's like I have this amazing like neck massaging thing that I got, and do it before bed sometimes, and it just like I'm in pure like bliss, right? What happens is like we have these moments where like, oh, I did that thing, but then life folds back in, right? And so because for a lot of high functioning women, burnout isn't just about how much you're doing. Um, it's about who, and I'm going to say this, and I want you to write it down. It's who you believe that you have to be worthy, safe, loved, respected, valuable, to make money, to find your partner, to get the sale, to get more followers, to whatever it is. You have to be enough. It's about who you believe you have to be in order to be enough, to get your dream, to get to your goal. And welcome, by the way, for those of you who just jumped right on in the beginning. So that's what I want to talk about today. And as you're listening, I want you to pay attention to what really resonates. You don't have to like perform the comments. You don't even have to have the answer. I want you in this to stay, if you can, to the end and just start reflecting and noticing in your body, if you can, even in your mind, what feels uncomfortably true, because that's the beginning of kind of making a shift with this. Okay. So let's talk about burnout not being the real problem. So I'm assuming if you're listening to this, you're super capable and you're high functioning and you're really smart, conscientious, really deep feelings, very responsible. The one that people count on, the one who always remembers everything, right? You're like, I'm an elephant. I remember everything. You think ahead, you handle it all. You're the person who keeps the wheels from falling off. And so, because of that, from the outside, you look fine. I have decided that the word that like pisses me off the most is when someone goes, "Well, no, it's but it's fine." Fuck fine. That's what I'm here to say. Um, Sometimes even it looks more than fine. It looks impressive, right? Like the calendar flex. But on the inside, it feels overextended, super resentful, um, soul level tired, like tired, not just physical, um, low key trapped by your life, hard to relax, hard to even like not do something for 1 or 2 minutes. Um, Meditation might be hard for you, stillness might be hard for you. It's hard for you to not be doing something. There's no pleasure just for pleasure. Can't stop. And even when you do stop, it's your mind keeps going. So the question is why? Why is that happening? Why does someone who knows so much, who's done the therapy, who's listened to the podcast, who's reading the articles, you've journaled, you've done the mindset work, maybe even trauma work, why are you still stuck in that same energy pattern? And I want to tell you this because I've been doing this 17 years now. And I always say that when people come to me, it's their last stop because what I want you to focus on with me or someone else is it's not your schedule, it's not your job, it's not your situation with your kids or your sandwich generation life. Yes, that contributes to it. But that's also the story. What's really going on is your identity structure. It's the unconscious role, and I'm going to reverse engineer this so deep, so stay with me, that still runs your life. Okay, it's called the Love Shield, and I'm almost wondering if I can bring up if I can share my screen. Ooh, I can. Let's see if I can do this. Um, Trying the new technology. Yeah, for some people it's Claude. For me, it's screen sharing. Um, but if I could show you this, that would be super cool. So yeah, I think I can. All right, let's try this. Da, 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 da. Oh man, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. It's which tab is it? Mm, I don't know, man. I don't think I can do it or women. Um, because it's not happening for me. Okay, we'll do that. We'll try it again and next time I get it for you. All right, so let's go back to what we're talking about, the love shield, because I'm just gonna describe it to you. I get excited. So the love shield is one of the deepest frameworks that shape my work. It's based on a divine download that came from doing some really deep work now 20 years ago when I went to what is called the Hoffman process. And I want to explain it for you really simply. And I've never seen anyone talk about this. So I want you to picture a target, like a target, like archery. Um, and there's a bullseye in the center of it, right? And then you've got your circles moving outward like a target. What I want you to hear is this: there is at the center a core shame message. And I know what people, I used to hate that word shame. I was like, I don't have shame. Not shame like embarrassment. What I mean is, it is a core deep message that was formed as a child, for some of you even pre conscious, like 0 to 2, when something in your environment didn't feel safe, emotionally attuned, or steady. And what I also want to say is, because this was also really hard for me, this doesn't mean that your parents were bad or wrong or you had a bad childhood. This research shows actually that if you were to like put a baby in the middle of the room and you had a team of 100 people doting on it and giving this baby everything they needed, there would still be um, this core message. Um, and the core message is a version of I'm flawed. Okay. Like that's just the blank, that's like the big umbrella, but it's very specific for people. And it changes and one gets shifted and another one can come up, but it's some version of either I'm not enough or I'm too much. I'm not important. That's mine. I'm a burden. I'm going to be abandoned. I have to earn love. I have to perform to matter. I'm only safe when everyone else is okay. Like, there's a lot of these, right? And so the message, I want you to know, like, you didn't choose it. Your brain was functioning in a way in which it does when it develops. And some of you are really smart, and even psychologists and therapists and coaches, and you know this. Um, but our brain makes meaning of it the only way our brain can at that age. And in that age, we're really egocentric, right? We're in this developmental stage. So we don't say like, oh my God, my parents are dysregulated or absent or depressed or unavailable or overwhelmed. Obviously, we interpret that in this very think about how your brain is being formed as something must be wrong with me. And that becomes the center of that bullseye. And I like to call it and use this framing, it's an internalized negative parental voice that we have internalized, right? So that becomes the center. And then outside of that core message, this identity message, it comes the voice in your head that turns into the inner critic, the one that is pushing, the one that says, get it together. Don't be lazy. Don't disappoint anyone. Be better. Do more. Handle it. You need too much. Don't fall apart. Don't let them see your struggle. You should be further along by now. Now, that voice sounds in your head like you, right? I want you to understand it's a survival voice, and literally at the place of your limbic brain, the lizard brain, the reptilian brain. For those of you that know about that, if you want to know more, absolutely leave a comment and I can send you tons of information and training on that. But what I want you to know is that often it's so unconscious. It's like a blind spot. And here's the thing, you may have diagnosed this for yourself. And you may not have done anything about it other than have awareness. And so what happens is, even though our brain can process, oh, I get it, our whole identity is built on that message, right? So we build a role for ourselves in our family system, in our life. It might be the good girl, it might be the fixer, it might be a caretaker. Your role that you might have developed is being the peacemaker. You might be the rebel. You might be hyper independent or over responsible. And that identity made sense at one point. It was your way to survive. It was adaptive. It often becomes part of your superpower, actually. It helped you belong. It helped you survive, avoid rejection, stay connected to the people who were taking care of you. It helped you survive. And so we're going to get to burnout, I promise. But outside of an identity, right? Like, think for all of you that are writers on here, right? Like, you have your characters that they have these misbeliefs and these flaws. And then when you're doing characterization, right, they have behaviors, their dialogue, like everything about it comes from that piece, right? So then the behaviors that you take on are over functioning, people pleasing, perfectionism, control, taking on too much, staying hyper vigilant, right? So on the outside, everyone can see your results, what you're creating as a result of that role. And what happens is, and why I call it the love shield, is that because everything that you put out there, that perfectionism, is actually shielding you from feeling the pain of that deep core message. It's your shield, so you don't have to feel that pain. It's filling the hole that core message has embedded in your psychological nervous system, and it's a shield, right? And so the point of the shield is to protect you from having to feel what's at the center, the original lie, the original fear. So when I talk about the identity behind burnout, that's what I mean. It's not a branding identity. It's not what kind of woman do you want to become in 2026. I mean that the identity that you built to stay loved, chosen, and okay. And what does this have to do with burnout? Everything. Because if the core identity message in your life says, I have to be valuable to be needed, I'm safe when I'm in control, I matter when I'm exceptional. Ugh, hits you right here. I earn love through usefulness. I can't relax until everything is perfect and everyone else is okay. Then your life becomes one giant proving ground. And I want you to see how insidious this is. Emails, saying yes when you mean no, the extra thing you take on, when you over prepare, when you don't delegate, when you say it's just easier for me to do it myself, when you push through. It's all being fueled by the same thing, this proving energy, which is part of that umbrella. And it's exhausting. And that's why so many women are, even if you don't name it burnout. I used to talk a lot about burnout. And people are like, oh, I'm past the burnout stage. Like I've made those changes, and that's exactly who I'm talking. I mean, talking to you if you're burned out, but I'm also talking to you if you've made those changes and you still feel that heaviness because that identity is still uh, based on that message, right? So when you do the work that you care about, when you can't leave a job, when you can't have a hard time leaving a relationship or changing where you live or starting a new chapter, it brings that tired. I'm just going to call it that tiredness because it's dissonant, right? There's something going on that's not right because the pattern and that message are coming with you. So it was never just the job. It was never just your partner or the phase of life that you're in. It was the unconscious patterns and that identity organizing and driving your energy. And that's why I say it's not really a workload problem or it's an identity problem. And you don't solve an identity problem with a band aid, like a vacation or a new planner or a new job, or you don't solve it with more knowledge or training or information or insight because so many women are self aware and can even name this, but you're still stuck. So, the other piece of this that is really the Marnie way is that this is psychological and spiritual, right? Because psychologically, those patterns are adaptive and protective. On a spiritual level, and that's what I was talking about, they're not the truth of who you are. They're not the essence. That shield, right, is a shield. So it's blocking you from your soul, from knowing what it is you're really meant to do, from living and expressing who you are as your authentic, essential self. They're not your deepest self. They're really old strategies. And so at some point, those strategies stop protecting you and actually become like a prison. That shield that was developed to protect now becomes a prison. And I think there's so many incredible women who are living beautiful, capable, very externally successful lives and that are quietly abandoning themselves really literally every day. Um and it's not because you're weak or you don't care, there's something flawed, right? You're just and hear this. You're unconsciously loyal. You're unconsciously loyal. Think about what that is to a version of yourself that had to hustle for love, perform for worth, and disappear from their own truth in order to survive at the Maslow's, level. And that's why this work matters so much to me because I don't want women waiting until they're 79 to realize that they spent decades proving something that was never true in the first place. Hear that? Oh my God. I don't want you to spend your day proving something that was never true in the first place. Your child brain made that up. I have so many client stories, but what I want, and I don't want to take your time with all of that, but when I work with a client and we unpack this, what happens is the whole identity can be built around being indispensable. You each have your own version, right? You don't know who you are without being the one who handles it. Receiving can feel unsafe. Letting go can feel super irresponsible. Asking for help can feel weak. Like you won't be perceived by the people that you work with or in your life in the right way if you say no. Not over functioning can almost feel immoral, right? And that's the identity trap. That's why burnout can feel impossible to fix at the core level. And I really want you to hear this. The thing draining you is also the thing that you've been most rewarded for. So, can you see how hard this is to think your way out of your thoughts and fix this problem? Do you see how much easier it would be if you actually focused on identifying what's at that core message? It's a blind spot because the system exhausting you doesn't announce itself as a problem. Like, let that one land. It presents as this is my personality. This is who I am. I have high standards. I'm responsible. I like things done a certain way. I'm just better when I stay on top of it. No one else is going to do it. I don't mind. Ugh, it's fine. Meanwhile, your body is like, oh, it is so not fine. Right? Now, here's the thing, you can't see it because this identity is so familiar. It's all you know. And you mistake it, you may be mistaking it for the truth, your truth, but it's not the truth. And the ego, girl, it will defend it, right? Because dismantling an old identity literally can feel like death. I remember when I was doing this work and I was in a partner exercise and it was my turn and I was going through this process and I described it for the last like 20 years. It's been 20 years. Is like a knife was going in my chest, right? Like it was ego death. It was pattern death, the death of the role, the death of the image, the death of a survival strategy. So even really, really smart women, especially the smarter you are, the more stuck you can get because the system is protecting you. It's also the system that's keeping you from seeing it clearly. That's the blind spot. And for a long time in my work, I've called this your blind spot. And now I call it your E factor. It's your energetic factor, your energy, your unconscious patterns beneath the pattern. And unless you know how to really get to the truth, the part of you that doesn't want to die, quote unquote, doesn't want you to see this. But it's the real energetic driver of everything, of why you stay stuck, even when you've already done so much work. And that's why I confidently say to people, I am your last stop, finally, and for the last time. I am your last stop. It's the thing you can't see from inside yourself. Even if you've done therapy, even if you've done a lot of self-awareness, you've hired every coach and you know your childhood story and you know your patterns. Because naming the pattern and seeing what's running you in real time are two very, very different things. And when that center of that target starts to change, everything changes, obviously, as we described, right? When the core message softens, when you stop having to live from I have to prove and start living from I am enough, you stop hemorrhaging your energy. And then you organize your whole life in a different way. You stop confusing over functioning with love. You stop confusing exhaustion with your worthiness. Everything changes. Your leadership changes. Your relationships change. Your nervous system changes. Your choices change. Your ability to receive changes. Your access to joy changes. And what's happening right now is you're like the whack-a-mole. You're like, let me work on leadership. Let me work on relationship. Let me work on nervous system. Right? Like that just sounds overwhelming and hard. But when you do this identity work, right, you're not building things that are new from an old wound. You're building from the truth. And that's, to me, that is what real transformation lives. And that's my gift. And that's what I do. And so it's not just in saying no more. It's the level of identity and then taking that into how do you embody that? How are you being that? How are you living that? The level of coming home finally to who you truly are. So if this is hitting you, and you've been following for the last few weeks, we did a call last week called the Reset, where we talked about this. And I want to tell you what we talked about really briefly in that led to this opportunity that I wanted to throw out there for you. It's called the E Factor Assessment. And it is not a personality test. It's not like Myers Briggs or any of those things, right? Because those are static. They say, like, this is who you are and this is how you show up in the world. This assessment that you take shows actually your core unconscious beliefs. And I used to do this for many years of my business as a paid session. And I charged like $500 for it because it was like X amount of dollars for the assessment plus my time. And I made this decision that I want to do it to the right people, the people that are in the right place, for free. And I want to be really clear what this is and what it's not. This is not like a fake sales call. It's not some bullshit funnel, just to say that. It's not me pretending to help you so I can like slide you into something else. It's actually real work. So you book your call, you do a little application to make sure this is the right time for you. And then you get sent this assessment. It will take you about 5 minutes. And then we have a session together and we're going to look at the stuck energy underneath your burnout. It is your core default. It's why you're not getting the clients you want, the followers you want, the money you want, the job you want, the relationship you want. Whatever is running your life right now will be revealed. Again, I've done thousands of these probably over the last 20 years, 17 years. And even people who are so smart and they're like, holy shit. So we get underneath the surface. It's not the therapy answer. It's deeper. So, and of course, if you do it and you're like, oh my God, I want to address these things, I will totally help you. We'll talk about how you can do it in my Reset program. But that's not the point of what I'm talking about. This is about service to help you get clear. This point is helping women see the thing they can't see alone so they stop wasting years circling the same drain. Why am I doing this right now? I am turning 60 in like probably less than that, 6 weeks or so. And my mission has never felt clearer. And I don't want women waiting to know the truth. I don't want you to stop to abandon yourselves anymore. So if any of this spoke to you, there's a link that we're putting in the comment. It takes about 60 seconds to fill out the application. And if it's a fit, we'll do the E Factor assessment together. You'll take the assessment. I'm buying it for you. You're going to get an email. And then you and I will meet one-on-one on Zoom and we'll get the real thing that's running the show. And you will have like a punch list at the end of what your core beliefs are and what this unconscious pattern is that's been keeping you stuck, and what you need to do to shift it. Because I want you to stop calling it your personality. I want you to start really changing your life, not in the whack-a-mole way, because that takes a lot of work, but really at the root. So if this hit even quietly in any way, trust that, and click on the link. And it's time to tear down your left shield. So if there's any questions or comments, I can answer those before we sign off. I always like to do exactly 30 minutes. I don't see any questions or comments. Doop. All right, perfect. The link is in the comments. I'll be sending out a replay of this live also with the link. Stay tuned for more. But remember, always and in all ways, it's your responsibility to life check yourself. We'll see you soon. Bye, all.